Well, you know, Akator is a place we made up. There is no such place as Akator. But there is such a place as El Dorado, the city that Cortez, was searching for, a city of gold. So we kind of loosely took that piece of history and mythology, if you will, and combined it in a fictitious way with another place that would be the lure to bring adventure seekers to the scary lower depths of a rainforest in order to find a lost city.
A large part of the movie takes place underground. So of course, again, you're dealing with certain logistics. How do you light a cave without any lights? And of course, they're carrying little torches and little flashlights, but that is not sufficient to create enough illumination to expose the film.
So how can I make that smaller?
The shadow? Just moving the light for about that.
I understand.
The reason I like the water effect on the walls and on people's faces is because there's a movement. It constantly moves across face or constantly moves across the wall. It's constant light and shadows, and that's what I work with. I work with light and shadows.
Are they the same?
There were more. Look.
This tunnel, which has these wonderful images on, leads to an enormous circular rotunda in which our main characters get attacked by the locals of this area. And they basically break out of the columns that surround the space and attack our characters as they make their way through the tunnels. But those panels themselves have all been made as very fragile breakaways, so we have to carry those things around very carefully because there's approximately 14 hours worth of work that's gone into each one of these panels, and one false move and they could break. So it's a very, very nerve-wracking time. But they'll be shooting that Indian, his group, out and down the stairs and across a colonnade here.
When you first read it, they're running down steps. It's all right, let's run down some steps. All of a sudden you get to these steps and they're all sort of jaggedy and sort of uneven and quite steep. So, we rehearsed for that for a day or so.
Once that's been completed, we'll remove that series of entrances from the top of this set, and it will begin a redress and become the top of the temple with the spiral staircase. At that point, the actors now will run in reverse through the colonnade and up the stairs. So it's kind of a bit of a jigsaw puzzle in terms of the scheduling, but we've made this enormous structure work for us in many different ways. And then as you can see, there's an enormous hole in the middle of the set here. You can probably make out these 4 doors. They're all going to be closed in on a sort of an obelisk structure, which will probably stretch a further 35 feet in the air from here, making this certainly one of the tallest sets I've ever worked on.
Action.
And the theory of it is once you remove the plugs, the sand drains out and it drops a counterweight. When the counterweight drops, it allows these big arms to fold up and fall down. As the arms come down, that allows the floor to open up and reveals the staircase below.
1, 2, 3!
So that basically was a practical set. And if you think about the weights, we had arms that are 20, 30,000 pounds that you're lifting up to drop down in this hole with your actors there. It looked really good.
And cut, good.
I was so impressed with Dan Sudik's work when I hired him to do War of the Worlds that I asked him to do Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And Guy Dias had come up with a couple of interesting booby traps. Go! So Dan and Guy had to work as collaborators between physical effects and set design.
We knew we needed 20,000 pounds of sand per take. So we tested a lot of different sands and products that look good and still would do what we're trying to do in the gag.
Harrison!
Listen! Hear that? It's not over!
Cut, very nice.
Here on this stage, we're dealing with a rather complicated set. It's actually broken into 2. It's the disappearing staircase set.
There's a circular staircase, and we find ourselves there as the steps are disappearing.
It was wild to be in it, and there behind Harrison, and running down the stairs, and things are retracting, and that was so indie.
2, 1, go!
The steps do retract in at quite a fast rate, so we've had to build quite a substantial rig on the top, which they're all on cables, they start running down, the steps start retracting.
So the idea is that Indy and his group have to run down the stairs before all the stairs completely retract. If they don't make it, they'll end up like the Spanish conquistadors behind me here in their heavy armor that were too heavy to run down the stairs fast enough and end up spiked on these huge stone spikes.
When I said, that's a great idea, let's put that in the script, I had no idea what I was getting myself in for. The outskirts of the column have different sleeves of pure steel and a whole wire system of steel wire that has to pull these stone steps slowly into the wall.
The stairs were quite large. The stairs were 20-foot stairs, and I think they weighed about 3,000 pounds each. And all of those stairs were on tracks and cables and pistons, and they would all retract as one.
Go, 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 go! We've got cameras on cables moving up and down and around, following them, behind them, in front of them, above them, below them. So it is quite a challenging set, this one.
Hey, Mark.
It's scary, but there's a humor to it. Steven has a way of putting you in the middle of the fear and keeping the humor intact so that you don't lose the tone of Indiana Jones.
They're almost going to kiss, and then Shia comes and interrupts it.
Hold this!
You know, there's a wonderful comic constant trading off of everybody looking after everybody else.
That's hard to do. That's not an easy sell, to scare people but still have them in a humorous spirit. How do you do that? That's a magic that he knows how to do. I mean, that's Steven.
Take about 7 or 8 steps.
And then turn.
And then turn. If nobody moves, they're just staring at you. Nobody's moving. And you're standing there and you can go.
This way?
Action.
In our storyline, the idea is that our heroes make their way down the stairs and basically stand in awe of the incredible Aladdin's cave that they've found, which basically has artifacts from all the ancient civilizations. Greek, Roman, Egyptian, everything's here.
Artifacts from every era of early history.
You know, there's a lot of movement in the set.
This place is the mother lode.
I think what most people don't realize is that wherever the camera is, everything has to be moved out of the way of it. So like in a set like the antechamber, it was just moved over and over and over. And then every time the camera turns around and sees back, then you have to put it back the same way that it was. So it's a huge amount of juggling.
The other day we shot a door that we were able to open through a combination of our ingenuity and the psychic powers of the crystal skull. But the door was one of the most amazing things I've seen.
Watch the door.
A stone arrow descended into 2 cylinders and pushed them apart to where they rolled off the edge, and 2 giant arms came down like this, and the door began to open in sections. And it is incredible.
This is the heart of the temple. This is purely imagination at this point. What I've done is I've taken some artistic license to try and come up with a style which is something that obviously is ancient, but would work with a series of beings that are clearly from another world.
I've never been a fan of little green men, but this is an intriguing new proposition about an extraterrestrial visit to an ancient culture.
No more forever waiting.
Well, this set has taken an extremely long time simply because of the remarkable level of detail that the sculptors have given us. The little tiles, sort of hieroglyphs, each one of those actually symbolized a piece of a story. And I believe there are about 4,000 of those tiles in this set. And one of the sort of tongue-in-cheek things that we did was we actually made a couple of tiles, one of E.T. and the other of R2-D2 and C-3PO, really as part of a tradition in these Indiana Jones films. I think Norman Reynolds and his team had put in Raiders of the Lost Ark some little images of R2-D2 in the famous snake pit that everybody loves, that famous scene. So I kind of felt I had to do something similar, just to keep that tradition going, you know?
To see these things they have managed to come up with, and how engaging, and how interesting it is visually. It's a great element in the film overall.
Scott. Action.
I've got a bad feeling about this.
These are always those kind of amazing things where this incredible climactic scene in the film is something that you're kind of acting without ever really knowing what it's going to look like.
What the hell is that?
A portal! A pathway!
I don't think we want to go that way.
As the set is falling apart, of course we couldn't destroy the set because it was just too complicated, so we shot a large portion of this particular scene on the blue screen with interactive lighting, where we had lights on special rigs that would allow the lights to spin and move in the circle. So all that was to create the sense of the world falling apart. The more interactive lighting I can introduce to the set, the easier it is for the visual effects guys to incorporate my lighting into what they designed.
Come on!
Here we're looking at, just around this corner, a staircase that will become what we call the generator room. The design of this, as we'll see in the concept art, actually shows a series of stone turbine wheels all the way up on either side. And you'll see at the top right hand we have the one single wheel. So the idea for this set is that we will have a working single wheel, and that will be replicated and cloned by Pablo and his team at ILM all the way down the stairs. And Dan Zudik and his team will provide us with interactive water so that we can wet down these stairs and really make it look as though those wheels are there.
It would drop basically 10,000 gallons per minute of water down onto the wheels, and they actually spun by the water hitting them. You know, Steven wanted interactive mist, so we had to hang mister heads throughout the whole set and turn them on, so it's as if the whole set was raining and flooding all at once.
There are 3 more days to go, and then we've done the movie. It's been a great trip, and my first job as assistant director was Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and that's when I first got my union card as an AD in England, working for David Tomlin, who was one of the great ADs, and now I find myself, you know, as the first AD on Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. So for me, it's a very emotional kind of feelings and, you know, fulfillment of my career to be working on this movie with Steven.
That's fine. Okay, perfect. That's the word will come up. Thank you.
I think the climax of the movie was an amazing adventure for us to put together. It was really a sequence that involved so many elements and so many sets and so many people and so many different places. That's really one of the biggest, if not the biggest, sequence I've ever been involved in.
Stop! 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 Stop!